Wow. 8 years as a personal trainer. Who would have thought, eh? Who would have thought? And this is what today's episode is going to be about. It's going to be about the kind of mistakes that I've made over the 8 years of being a personal trainer. So, whether you've someone who's getting themselves into training and kind of can understand it from the lens of being a coach, or even if you're a coach yourself and you're somehow listening to this podcast, maybe there's something you can take away from this. But anyway, guys, welcome to the MH Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Miles Harrison. And like I've already mentioned, guys, we're going to be talking about the mistakes that I've made throughout my 8 years of personal training, 8 years of coaching real people throughout their lives who have so many different lifestyles and goals and stuff like that. And yeah, we're going to get straight into it and stuff. So, first thing I've got to say is just a massive big thank you to everyone that I've ever worked with. Every single client that I've had, whether it's been short or long term, has built a wonderful career that I've been at the moment. And the fact that I've literally been doing this for 8 years is a testament to how much they made me enjoy the job, how much they've made me learn, and all the people that are still with me to this very day. I'm so sorry. No, just I'll just say thank you very much. Now, the thing is with the mistakes that I've made over years and stuff like that, I look back and I think I could have made a hell of a lot worse mistakes. Like, lucky enough for me, and it's not so much lucky enough in the most case of personal training in the industry, is I had a good support group. The umbrella company that I was a part of really taught me in well how to be a good personal trainer. So I had a good base. Obviously, don't get me wrong, I had to learn a lot. I'm not trying to take away from anything that I've done over the years, but I had a lot of people to have conversations about, a lot of people to learn about in the early days of gym, etc. The gym that I work at, like the PTs I had around me there were already established PTs, and it was all about helping each other out. So I learned a lot from them. But we'll go straight into these mistakes right now. And mistake number one is thinking that everyone should be moving the same. Now, don't get me wrong. There's principles, there's biomechanic landmarks, if you want to say that, about the way a joint moves or a muscle it contracts and all that malarkey. But everyone's different in the sense of obviously you got things like different lengths, you've got different experiences, and even like the way that you try to teach someone movement. I could give the same cue to 20 odd people and it could be working 20 different completely ways. And some people just take it so differently from the other person. But also as well from the point of what I see as a personal trainer, as a coach, is I could be like, right, it's got to be this particular way. And I used to be really like, but really kind of rigid on the approach that I used to have. And my client will be saying, right, well, I don't feel it in this kind of sense, or I'm feeling it here. And sometimes you've got to fall into their bias. You've got to allow them to feel it on their own. And if it looks a little bit different, I find, especially in this day and age, I find that that's okay. I think that there's all right to have a little bit of wiggle room in there. And that kind of also falls into the next mistake I did over the years was the fact that thinking there's this thing of perfect technique. Now, do I think form is an important skill to have? Definitely, definitely. There's a load of research that shows that people who train with somewhat of a decent form yield better results. But I don't think it's as black as white as everyone makes it out to be. I think, again, going back to the first mistake I've just made, the same, like, there should be almost a bandwidth of good enough. And if you're trying to, let's say we're trying to do an exercise and we're trying to target it within the glutes or something like that, like, and they're feeling in the glutes, and it looks a little bit differently, I think that's perfectly fine. Like, exercise is safe. I don't think there should be so much of a fear that maybe a lot of people have when it comes to exercises. Like a lot of the time when it comes to injury rates, a lot of it is usually comes when fatigue is generally quite high, not so much technique is generally high. And I think if you look at things people like um, CrossFit, for example, not very well known for having great technique. But if you get people who generally doing that, they're generally quite all right. And to the point where they start really becoming super duper tired. And that's where fatigue sets in. And obviously that's where injuries can increase. But I think that's the exact same with everyone. Like if you play a sport like football, for example, like the moment you start getting really tired, the likelihood of you getting injury becomes heightened as well. But I really think that the gym itself is a really safe place. It's usually super controlled in the environment. The range of motion is not the greatest as well. And if you do things 7 out of 10 perfectly fine, you'll be fine. I think you'll be motivated fine. So I think like if I combine those two mistakes together, everyone should move a little bit differently. Everyone, it's okay to move a little bit differently. And I don't think perfect technique is a thing. I think there is a bandwidth of again good enough that people can do. Moving on to the next one, guys, is mistake number 3 is being attached to methods. Now, obviously, over the course of the years, I've done many courses, I've took a lot of influences from so many different coaches that have so many different ideas. And obviously, with that, sometimes you can take bias of actually, excuse me, take bias into actually their beliefs. And like it should be done this a certain way and it should be done that. But when you've got someone in front of you, when you're trying to coach someone and that one method isn't working out for them, you've got to be able to switch things very quickly and find different ways of doing it. And a lot of the times, what I tend to do if I've got a client with a general issue, most of the time I maybe try like an A/B testing where I have kind of maybe a couple of like solutions I can think of in my head, and I try one of them, see how it responds, and then if I try the other one and see how that responds. And depending on what they kind of give me feedback, I can usually give them one of the two. And if none of them works, then I'm absolutely bothered. No, but yeah, like you get what I mean. Like there's so many ways of doing things, and the reason why that's so much true is because you've seen so many people get good results from doing so many different things within the fitness industry. So I don't think like being attached to one method should be ideal. And also as well, I think for me, when I've really kind of closed myself from a certain style of training, a certain way of thinking about training, like I've really kind of closed myself away of different levels of thinking. And I've had it in so many of my careers where I've been like, black and white, no, I don't like this. I think static stretching is a very, very good example. Where I don't think it's still the greatest of modalities, I think you can get a lot out of range of motion by just being generally stronger and exposing yourself regularly through normal modes of exercises. Static stretches does have its place. It's good for finding things like awareness. If you're someone who's very much been sitting down all day, like it's an easy way to get access to range of motion. Might not be able to build long term and strength in those positions, which you need strength training for. But I used to be very much like static stretches are useless. You don't need them. What a waste of time. And I think like it took me only kind of maybe in the last few years when they kind of develop it. It's like, no, maybe they don't do the thing that I originally thought they would do. Maybe they don't really create a ton of length for a long period of time, but they can be a valuable tool to gain mobility short term. That someone can then start moving a little bit better and therefore gaining some more strength. So that's what I mean. So like you can see that development there in the sense of like allowing myself to be open to changes in the way that I think. And I think if you are someone who's training and you've been training a certain type of way for so many years, I think it will do you some good if you kind of open your mind up and allow for interpretation of different types of methods. Now, when it comes to mistake number 4, I want to talk about like programming, for example. For example. Um, I used to have a really kind of rigid way with my programming, and I used to do it in a sense of like, for some odd reason, there'll be 4 to 8 marks, and it was just the way that I kind of got taught how to do programming at the original beginning, where you do a program for that kind of length, and at the end of each one, you do kind of like a review, where you ever sit down and recline and we talk through stuff and all that. And within those kind of 4 to 8 weeks, like the program was very rigid. There wasn't really change in that much there. And if I, especially in my younger days, if a client couldn't do that program, then I would not blame it on the client, but I wouldn't blame the program. I wouldn't really blame me. Maybe that just shows the arrogance of what I used to be when I was younger. The what do you call it, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like the more you know, you realize there's less that you know less, that kind of thing. But the thing about writing programs now is my program writing right now, I would probably say is one of the most basic ways of actually written programs. And I give a lot more freedom out the programs. I don't really do a lot of rigid progressions. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there will be a time in the future where, from a week to week basis, I might do things like percentages, I might do things like RPE scales. Um, but a lot of the time, a lot of my clients are very much like Gen Pop. They've got very different lifestyles. They've got lifestyles outside of the gym. Like they might have a family, they might have a really busy job, they might not have much time in the first place. So to create a lot of rules and regulations for these people to come and train in creates this kind of barrier that doesn't need to really be there. And I think it's so important to have a little bit of like freedom within the program that not only allows you to change things as well, but it allows you to adapt. If, for example, someone's coming into the gym and they're really super tired, then letting them to have that kind of approach allows you to still make progress, even if it's not the most optimal thing in the whole wide world, but they're maximizing what they can do right now. And I think if I just carried on this idea of programming too rigidly, then I don't think my clients would hardly make the results. And I'm not saying that's down to the way I program, and I think that's really because I've let my clients have more of a say of the program. I think a really smart coach said this, and it's like you program a computer, you coach a person. And I think that's so valuable in the sense of like understanding that these people have so many different lives, and if you're not getting that feedback and you're not letting them have that say, then you're going to shut down from results that you'll never know. So I think it's really important to have a load of flexibility within program. Obviously, have structure in some form of way, but what I really love is the fact that now I have a lot of communications with my clients. We adapt things on the go. If things are really going well, we keep going forward with it. If we need to change things, maybe that's due to mobility, stress, not being able to recover properly, dislikes and likes, then I have the confidence now to be able to change that on the fly. And then last one there, guys, mistake number 5 is thinking more information equals better coaching. Now, early in my career, obviously I was hungry to learn more. Like, I understand that there was a lot to learn. And obviously, like I mentioned before, the more that you learn, the more you realize that you absolutely know absolutely nothing. But you keep learning in the pursuit of mastering the skill and getting better at the job just to be able to help more and more people. And like everything really, I get kind of a bit too excited when I start to learn stuff. And you start using things like the jargon that you start to learn as well. You start becoming really kind of technical with all your type of stuff. And I think first base of it was very much just to show how much I knew. But then sometimes like I could be so very technical, and sometimes like it happens right now where I try to explain things a little bit too much, and I can see it in front of me. I've got this person so lost because I've just gone into this massive rabbit hole that I just didn't need to know. And I do think with coaching, sometimes like less is far better than more. And I think if you can get your words across in the least amount of words possible to get them to the results that they want, even better. Now, if clients ask me, obviously the ask more for more details, I will give it to them. I will explain it to them in a little bit. But at the same time as well, I probably understand that most of my clients probably don't need to know half the stuff and all that. That's ideally what they're paying me for. They're ideally for my knowledge and my experience, and ultimately they just want to get to the place that they want to go. But by all means, I'm sure my clients now will, or should I say, let's say, I'm more and more confident in the fact that my clients understand the principles and the holistics of training through the methods that we've talked about as well. But if they ever wanted to obviously talk more or grab more information and stuff like that, then I'll be more than happy to explain that as well. But I think like now, especially with queuing, especially with giving out more information, try to keep that a little bit to my more self until asked done. And that's it there, guys. There's some of the mistakes I've made over my coaching career, and you can kind of see now how I've developed my kind of thought process over the years to come. And obviously now, what, 8 years, like I'm nowhere near done. Like I'm not the finished product really, and that I kind of hope that I'm nowhere near the finished point because I just believe there's so many more things I can learn. I think I'm just getting to a point now where I'm really confident in the things that I'm doing. If I'm seeing issues that my clients had, I'm more comfortable than solve their problems. Um, and the good thing about this is, all guys, I really enjoy it. It is such a wonderful industry to start coaching in, and going back to the days where I was doing painting and stuff like that, like when I was just taking fitness as a hobby, I never would have thought in 8 years' time that I would be doing something like this. So all I can say is I hope the next 8 years are as brilliant as the first ones, and it just keeps bringing more and more and more. But anyway, that's it. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the MH Performance Podcast. I'll see you all in the next one.